Okay.
And your chair, Ellen? I guess it doesn't matter.
Okay, it's 12 PM right now, because this is the finance meeting, so we'll bring it to order right now. And we have the auditor. Jennifer, can you speak better as who exactly we have on the phone?
Sure, this is Kyle and Matt, and Kyle's the managing partner with our audit, and they're with the firm Zupka. They've been auditing the city for years and years and years, so I thought it might be beneficial for an overview of our audit report and in the process that Kyle may get into.
That's good. Are you guys ready to start?
Yeah, we can go ahead and get started. I did want to throw out there as I didn't specify this when we were getting the meeting set up, but technically our portion of going through the audit report is not a public, wouldn't normally be a public meeting, so I don't know who all's in attendance right now. But normally we just go over that with the city officials, the committee members. But we're good to go. We can get things going on our end.
Kyle, this is a public meeting.
Yes. Is there any specific reason as to why it's not normally public? I guess I asked that.
Yes, so the discussion with the auditors for the post-audit conference is not subject to the public meeting requirements
Okay.
for ORC. And right now, the audit report hasn't been publicly released by the Audit Office yet. They're still doing their review process.
Okay, all right, then, you mentioned in the email like a high-level overview of the reports that are contained in the audit. Can you talk about that then?
Yeah, I mean, we'll go ahead and go through that. So I'll again just pointing out everything's still in draft format right now since the state's still reviewing it. Generally, we don't have any issues that come down the line from the desk. Still subject to change technically until they finish their review.
Hey, excuse me, Kyle.
You've got me on this.
I'm sorry to interrupt. Councilman Barrow. So typically, you don't give this portion of the report because it hasn't been accepted as, I don't want to use the word accurate, I'm sure it's accurate, but hasn't been subject to approval, like, yes, this is right, everything looks good.
Or finalized? So,
Yeah, so the process is finish the audit, we submit the report to the auditor's case office, and they do essentially a desk, what they call a desk review, kind of a cursory review of the report, just to make sure that they don't see any issues with it before they accept it and publicly release the report. Generally, that we take a little bit longer this year, but hopefully you would see that within the next month or so. That they'll complete the review and have the report released.
Okay, and Ms. Hark had a question. You said that it's going to be more of a high-end report. I don't follow that.
So yes, that was the narrative Kyle had sent to me, a high-level overview.
Okay,
Yeah, so
overall.
yeah. Basically, yeah, I'm going to go over the auditor's reports that we issue in completing the financial audit. And then, of course, if anyone has any questions, I'm happy to answer about the contents of our reports with audit process.
well, this is a learning situation. We've never done this before, right? So when it was given an option that we could, it was all something we were interested in having the opportunity to learn a little bit more about it. So.
Sure. All right, so I guess I've got a little PowerPoint presentation. I'm going to pull over my screen so see that. I'm going to share my screen here in just a moment. Okay, so hopefully you can all see that now. Basically, I'm going to go through the summary of audit results. The main thing is the first three items here, which is our independent auditor's report on internal control and compliance, and our report over federal programs. Key points there for each of those reports is that we do not have any significant issues. We've got an unmodified clean opinion on the financial statements. We didn't come across any significant deficiencies or material weaknesses in internal controls, and no material compliance issues either. So the first report that we issue is our independent auditor's report. That's our overall opinion on the financial statements of the city. The main thing there is that we have what's called an unmodified or clean audit opinion, which means that we believe that the financial statements are fairly presented in all material respects. We conduct the audit following what's called generally accepted auditing standards, as well as government audit standards. The report calls out what management's responsibilities are for the financial statements. So management of the city is responsible for the preparation of the financial statements, making sure that those financial statements are in alignment with generally accepted accounting principles. And management's also responsible for internal controls over financial reporting to make sure that those financial statements are stated. Our responsibilities as auditors is to obtain reasonable assurance that the financial statements are fairly stated. We just point that out, that reasonable assurance is not an absolute assurance. The nature of auditing doesn't allow us to look at every single transaction in the city. So what we do is we follow a risk assessment process, professional judgment. So we look for areas that either due to materiality or some other factors we believe might be more prone to having a misstatement, and we base our audit procedures on those risks that we identify. We also gain an understanding of internal control of the city to design our audit procedures, and we also evaluate general accounting policies and estimates. One extra thing in the report this year is what's called an emphasis of matter paragraph. That's just us calling out something of note that happened in the year. In this case, relating to accounting principles. There was a new government accounting principle for GASB 101, compensated absences. That just changed how the long-term liability for vacation and sick time that the city accrues for its employees. There was a change in the standard and how that amount is calculated. So we're just calling that out because that's a significant change in the financial statement for how that compensated absence is calculated. We didn't have any issues with that in reviewing it. We're just calling it out because it was just a significant change. There's a few other sections of the overall financial report package that we have slightly different audit procedures for. The first area is what's called required supplementary information. That's some extra information in the financial report that's required by accounting standards. So there's a section, mainly what's called management discussion and analysis. That's like an overview that the management puts together at a high level of looking at what occurred in 2024 versus 2023, and what the changes were, discussion of those items. So we do some limited auditor procedures on those just to make sure it looks okay in comparison to what we know from reviewing the financial statements themselves. But we don't offer an auditor in that section. There's a couple other tables and schedules that are included in required supplementary information related to pension and other post-employment benefit numbers. Same thing there. We do review those, but we don't offer an audit. The next area is what's called supplementary information. So that's related to what the city puts in the report as part of doing the annual comprehensive financial report. So the city puts together a shorthand for that expert. Basically, it's a more comprehensive report that has some additional information in it, more detail as far as the city's financial numbers. There's a couple of sections with more fund level detail in the also do review those, and those ones we do a little bit more procedures on, and we do offer an opinion on those, saying that those sections are fairly stated in relation to the financial. Then the last couple of areas are what's considered other information. Those are, again, part of what's in the annual comprehensive financial report, the introductory and statistical sections. We do very limited procedures on those. We don't offer an opinion on those, but we can make sure that, we read through them and make sure that everything looks correct as far as we know from reviewing the financial statements. So that was probably the main thing that we offer as part of the audit, is that audit report. Now, the next report that I'm going to go over is our report on internal control and compliance. So as part of performing a government audit, we do review internal controls and certain compliance items in doing the audit. Now, for internal controls, the main reason we look at internal controls is to design for audit procedures. Something I mentioned previously, where when we're doing our risk assessment process, we look at internal controls and see how we want to design our audit based around controls. So we don't review internal controls as a whole to offer an overall opinion on whether internal controls are good or not. We just do that for designing our audit. So in performing the audit, we did not identify any items that we would consider significant deficiencies or material weaknesses in internal control. However, we don't do a comprehensive review of internal controls, so we don't offer an overall opinion on internal controls. Compliance is somewhat similar. We do review compliance with certain areas where non-compliance could have a direct material effect on the financial statements. We also follow the auditor state issues, what they call the Ohio Compliance Supplement. That's calls out specific areas of the Ohio Revised Code that they have deemed to be material to audit purposes. And we also review those areas of the auditors. So overall, we don't offer an overall opinion on compliance as a whole, but we did not identify any material. And then the last report that we issue as part of the audit is our report on compliance for each major federal program. So for the 2024 audit, the city did have to have what is called a single audit performed. That's where we have to review federal expenditures for compliance. Now, that's because in 2024, the city expended more than $750,000 in federal grants and dollars. The main factor of that for 2024 was the highway planning and construction, safety and urban paving program. So that's the program that we reviewed for compliance. And in our opinion, the city applied on the bill of specs with compliance requirements for that program. We follow the Office of Management and Budget puts out a federal compliance supplement, which identifies significant compliance requirements for a lot of most of the significant federal programs that are out there. So that's what we follow in performing the audit, which compliance items that we test. The basis for our opinion, very similar to the financial statements. We follow general auditing standards, we follow government auditing standards. Now we also follow the requirements of what's called the uniform guidance, which is federal regulations. And the rest of this report is very similar to our financial statement opinion, where we talked about management's responsibilities. Management's ultimately responsible for compliance with the federal programs, and also for designing relevant internal controls for maintaining compliance. Our responsibilities as the auditors, obtain reasonable assurance that the city is complying with the federal requirements, exercise professional judgment, and identify risk of material non-compliance, design our audit procedures based on risks. Here we also do obtain an understanding of internal control over compliance, In this case, we do specifically test for internal control. We don't offer an opinion on internal control again, but federal requirements does stipulate that we need to test internal control as part of the federal compliance audit. So our report on internal control over compliance, specifically for the federal program, again, we don't offer an overall opinion on compliance, but we did not identify any positions or material weaknesses in internal control over compliance. And the last part of that report is the report on the schedule of expenditures of federal awards. So this is related to a particular schedule that's presented in the financial statements that identifies the city's federal expenditures for 2024. So we do review that, make sure that those numbers are accurate, and we do offer an opinion that that schedule is fairly stated in relation to the financial statements as a whole. So those are the three main reports that we issue as part of the overall audit that's completed. The other item that I'll mention too is we sent a letter to governing body, to council, that was sent along with our audit reporting package drafts to you. We call it our required communication letter. That just discusses some of the other significant things related to the audit, basically again at a high level, but just wanted to point out that within that, it states that we didn't have any significant issues in getting through the audit. We didn't have any disagreements with management about any financial matters or other matters. They didn't have any significant financial mistakes either. Suffered audit. So overall, from our side of things for the financial audit, it was a clean audit result, clean audit report. We didn't have any significant issues completing the audit. I do want to extend my appreciation, our appreciation for the city's staff and the finance department for specifically working with us and getting through the audit. It's always been a pleasure to work with everyone there. It's always been a smooth, relatively smooth audit process, as far as getting the information out requested from our end. So we definitely appreciate that. The city's effort on that.
Thanks, Kyle. We appreciate that. It felt a little bumpy on our end with the transition from software mid-year, but yeah, we appreciate you and your staff's hard work on this too. Can we talk about the definition of major funds and how those are defined and why you won't see every single fund in the audit report?
Yeah, so what Jennifer's talking about there is in the city's financial statements, it's broken out based on the city's funds. So you have the individual governmental funds that the city uses for tracking its revenues and expenditures from different sources. So the main one is the city's general fund, which is the bulk of the activity for the city. But then there's all the individual funds for the different sources of revenue that have particular stipulations behind how those dollars are spent. And the financial statements are broken out by what's called major funds and then essentially all the other funds. So there's a process that in the preparation of the financial statements that's done, basically looking at all the total amounts for each of those funds, how much they have assets, how much they have liabilities, revenues, total expenditures, and there's percentages that are calculated to say, okay, which ones of these are most significant. And then those funds that are determined to be significant based on government accounting standards are individually presented in the financial statements. And those funds that are individually presented like that, our auditor opinion is actually we look at each of those major funds separately. So basically, it's almost like we're doing a separate audit of each of those major funds. And then all the other funds get lumped together as one total, and we look at that total for all those other funds as one aggregate amount that we audit. So our audit opinion, when we say when we're looking at the city's financial statements and offering an audit opinion on governmental activities, business type activities, and all major funds, that's what we're talking about is those major funds that are individually presented, and then those aggregate totals for what's called business type activities, so that's like utilities primarily, and then all other governmental activities as a lump total.
Thank you. So when you talk about compliance, you're really talking about looking at the charter, Ohio Revised Code, if the charter is silent, and internal policies, correct?
Yeah, so like for control, we're looking at primarily that policy, the procedures in place at the city, or how it handles financial transactions. And then we also look at for compliance, that's where we be looking at the other state's compliance supplement, or what they call significant there. So there's things about budgetary process, contracting, certain things related to benefits, like for certification, some other areas related to investments, cash management. So there's a bit of a variety of things that we're looking at there for compliance, based on that compliance supplement. That's the main thing that drives what we're looking at there. And then if there's significant new contracts or projects, we'd be looking at those in particular for the procurement process and the contracts themselves, making sure we're there. Yeah, and it's we largely base that based on, we're looking at the financial statements, seeing where the significant areas are, and then honing in on internal controls compliance.
So Kyle, I had a question there. So when you're talking about compliance, are you talking more directly to what the charter states, how things are to be managed in that financial world?
Yeah, so primarily what we focus on the Ohio Revised Code when we're looking at compliance, but that would also include cities' specific charter.
Right, right.
For those items as well.
Okay, thank you.
As part of the audit, you mentioned, the auditor state compliance. As part of the audit, is it a normal process to look at the financial health indicators as well?
No, that's a good question, because that's actually not something that we specifically look at in performing the financial audit. So the state does, they take all the financial data that is inputted to their system, for the city's financial statements, and they look at certain ratios and other analysis to come up with financial health indicators for the city. But that's actually, yeah, that's again, a good question, because that's not something that's that we specifically look at in performing the financial audit component.
Is that part of the state's desktop review then?
Yeah, so I don't know that they look at that when they're doing their desk review of the financial statements. But the system where you punch in all of the financial data for the state that does that. As far as I know, that's a separate process from what we're doing and from what they call the State Center for Audit Excellence. They're looking at specifically the financial statement itself, audit report. I don't know if they actually get to the financial health indicators at that level.
Okay, thank you. If there's one section, I don't know if you can narrow it down to one section, that you would point council to look at or citizens to look at, that that captures the health of the city's finances, or that would be really valuable information, is there a section that you would point them to?
Yeah, I'd say, certainly the most, the simplest place to look would be the management discussion and analysis report. So that's where you're gonna have your highest level analysis of the city's financial statements, as well as a comparison year over year from 2023 to 2024 for certain numbers, and then a discussion for any significant changes. And that would be the area to look at for anybody that's not knee deep in governmental accounting standards, as far as being able to read it and understand it. That would be the section to look at, see how overall how the city's doing. So I know from our end, we again, don't necessarily look at it in terms of like, is the city healthy or not? We're looking at it in terms of, is the financial statements as they're presented are accurate? But we do consider whether this would be like a really bad situation where, like, if you had some indication that the city had extreme financial duress and didn't look like it'd be able to continue operating for another year based on the financial numbers. So that's something we considered, if this that would have to be included in the audit report, if things were at such detrimental level that we couldn't have substantial doubt about the city's ability to continue as what's called a going concern. We certainly didn't have any issues like that in the financial statements, but that's primarily the level that we look at it for offering out. Outside of like if we believe there's some risk factor for a particular area, like maybe something is going poorly in some area, and maybe there's some risk there for numbers that the state is reporting. But again, I can't say we had any areas like that where concerns that we had. Indications of poor financial situation for the city.
What's the name of that section again? I'm sorry.
Sure, so that's the management discussion and
Discussion,
analysis
okay.
section of the report. So that's going to be, the way the report is laid out, it starts with what's called the introductory section. That's kind of the management discussion for kind of more forward-looking kind of analysis. And following that, there's some other items in there, but once you get past that introductory section, management discussion analysis, or what we call the MD&A in the report. So that'll actually follow immediately after our audit statements. Yes, let me see if I can tell you exactly where to go. In the report, if you look at the table of contents, immediately after the cover section, let's see, there's a section number 2 for financials, and then the auditor's report, page 1, and then the management discussion, the analysis started at page 5.
I think another helpful section, and I realize that you don't audit it, but it is part of our full audit report, is the statistical section. It gives you a year-over-year comparison, especially if you're not necessarily, like you said, in deep to accounting standards. Looks at population, looks at our top 10 taxpayers, our number of W-2s, average income, all kinds of really helpful statistics, even like pool attendance, pool membership, the number of water lines, sewer lines, all very, very good, very helpful information, new taps, new sewer taps. To me, that's always an indication of the, obviously the development in the area too.
Jennifer, what section would that have been in?
It's in the statistical section.
Thank you.
Yes, that's true too, and it's not a section that we audit specifically, but there is a lot of good economic data and other information that's not part of the regular financial statements in there that gets included with the comprehensive report that the city has submitted.
Okay, so seeing as how this is the first time we've done something like this. Is this normally something that we should like want to do on an annual basis, or is this something like every few years? What do you recommend?
Yeah, every city is different. I definitely think it's a great idea to probably do it at least, once every couple or every 2 years at least, just so you have the opportunity to, talk with us, the auditors, for your questions that we can help you with. A lot of times we see it where cities or municipalities, governments will only want to do, formalize a conference if there's some issue, significant issue with the audit report. Some cities like to do it annually, some, we almost never do it. So there's no, gold standard, I suppose, but I definitely think it's a great idea to consider. Just again, give you the opportunity to talk directly with us, which is not something that's not happening during the regular audit process outside of something that's really happening. So it gives you an opportunity to talk with us. You would have if you forego having this.
Thanks. Anyone have anything else?
This is an enlightening, kind of an awakening. I could see, I could see maybe something like this every maybe 2.5 years.
Like when new people are possibly elected or something?
Yeah.
That's kind of what I was thinking.
Yeah, revamp of council every 2 to 4 years.
Yeah.
So, somebody might see it twice, somebody might see it for the first time, and then if they have other questions, they have a source as well.
Okay. So will that be it?
Thank you.
Yeah, that's everything from our end. Again, I definitely appreciate everyone in the city's effort in working with us to get the audit. If there's any other questions, feel free to contact our office. Again, the state right now is in the process of reviewing the report. Hopefully, they will be getting that done before too much longer. I know we're still waiting on a lot of the audits that we submitted over the summer to get finalized and everything. So you're not alone, and I'm still waiting for the audit. But hopefully that'll be before too long. Get that out.
Kyle, I didn't catch the name of your firm.
So we're Zuppin Associates. We're quick background on us. We're out of the Cleveland area. We've been doing government audits for 30-some years now. I've been the audit partner here for almost 4 years now. Have 13 or 14 years of experience with the firm in total here now. But yeah, we've been doing it for a while, and like Jennifer said, we've not sure off the top of my head how many years we've been auditing the city, but it has been, I think,
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Great. Well, thanks a lot. We really appreciate it.
Okay,
Thanks.
thank you, everyone, and appreciate everyone attending. Any other questions, please feel free to contact us.
Thank you.
We'll do that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. We'll see how that was our only thing. Can adjourn.
I make a motion, we adjourn?
Yeah. Come on,
Second.
All right. That was interesting.
Oh, the barrel.
Yeah.
Yes, yes.
Josh is in here.
Good information.
Oh, yeah, Josh, he might be here in 5 minutes.